All right, we are with Coach Ron Crandall. You got several titles at Houston Christian. You're the boys' head basketball coach, associate director of athletics, as well as the coordinator for college placement. Do I got that right, Coach?
That's right.
Hey, man, welcome to the D Up with Double D show. I'm still new to all of this. In fact, I just had to have my wife come in here and show me how to Zoom.
We all have to figure out ways to help us be more successful, and oftentimes the wives are immediately involved in that process.
Yeah, we both have something in common. Both of our wives work for KDISD, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
At the same
Really
school.
cool. And they've worked together in the summertime.
And we have daughters that, we have sons who play basketball. Yep. And daughters that have a passion for ballet and dance. How is that possible?
I don't know, especially that latter portion. I can understand the first part, but the second part, I really don't know how that happened. My wife was a college volleyball player, and I was a basketball player and basketball coach. And my daughter played 1 year of basketball on Katy Youth Basketball. I coached her team in fourth grade. We went undefeated, of course. We smacked everybody. Yeah, I got accused of cheating, which is pretty funny back then with all the rules of KYB. No, it's just we're smarter and a lot better than you. She said, you know what? After 1 year of basketball, and I think I've had enough. Ironically, Neil King's daughter was on that same team, the head coach at Cinco.
Wow.
And they were both B team players, so they weren't even like the top players on the team, but they were really good B team players. So that's what helped us win. But Reagan, she decided to go the dance route, so she's actually in college studying dance right now.
You know, it's interesting with those youth basketball leagues where there is a draft and there's an A team and a B team. If the secret to all of that, if you can have a ringer on your B team, that can win you a lot of games.
And that was the case. Whenever I was doing that draft, some of these dads don't know what they're doing. They think they do, but they really don't know. And one of the kids that I drafted actually is Adam Canafani. When my son was playing KYB, and Adam, he played at Episcopal, and he's finishing up at Madison this year. And he was like my last pick on my B team. And he turned out to be this ringer of a kid on my KYB team. So it was just, it brought back some neat memories of coaching my kids and KYB and stuff. So,
and I love when that happens, when you don't know anything about a kid and they end up being better than what you thought they were going to be. All the other coaches in the league then accuse that coach of sandbagging, or they petition for that kid to move up from B to A.
Right.
They were on no one's radar when they drafted him.
That's right. Exactly. Well, okay, you want this kid to go down to B team? Okay, I'm fine with that too. Let's go. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Man,
it's a real honor to do this interview today. You've been a good friend of mine and somebody that I follow in the Houston high school basketball arena. We're going to dive into kind of what you do over at Houston Christian here in a little bit, but tell my audience, which is not much, by the way, I'm building one, about your background. Where did you grow up? You mentioned that you played basketball, your wife volleyball. Take us kind of in 2-3 minutes of how you got to the place where you are today.
Whew, man, that's going to be hard, but I'll try. Graduated from Cy-Fair High School, 1989. Went to Baylor. Went into Gene Iba's office. I wanted to walk on, and he looked at me and goes, "What's your name again? I don't know who you are, but we're not taking any walk-ons, especially a 5'9", 145-pound soaking wet kid from Cy-Fair High School that was, not even second team all district, for crying out loud."
Right.
But just enjoyed my time at Baylor. And actually, I had thought I was going to go in ministry work. My dad was in a gospel singing quartet whenever I was young. I was heavily involved in my church, and I thought I was going to become a youth pastor, eventually a pastor, senior pastor of a church. Went to Baylor with all that in mind. And but at some point during the time frame, my brother he's actually 3 grades behind me in school, 2.5 years younger than me. And I witnessed some things that he was dealing with his basketball team at his high school. And he and I went to different high schools because our area was rezoned. And so God just was really dealing with me in my heart as to really what I should be doing. And then I got hooked up with his JV coach, who is now well, he's actually retired from Cy Falls High School, Jim Drought. You probably know who Jim Drought
Oh,
is.
yeah.
And Coach Drought said, Crandall, I think you really need to think about going into coaching. I think you'd be an incredible coach. And I played high school ball with his older son, Jimmy. So it just stuck with me. And I'm sitting at Baylor, and I call my parents, and I'm already halfway through my major. I was a speech communications major and a religions double major. So, hey, Mom and Dad, I think I'm changing my major. I think this is really what I need to be doing. And so that coaching, I'll kind of speed forward a little bit. That coaching just really has become my ministry, if you will. And I really felt God calling me to use that platform, to use the platform of coaching to try to make an impact in young people's lives, whether it's male or female. It didn't really matter. Obviously, I have more contact with boys and coaching them on a daily basis. And, in my career, I've struggled with different aspects of my faith. I've wrestled with God about a lot of different things, but I know that my players know that that's an important part of who I am. I've never tried to, especially whenever I was in public school, you had to be real careful about your faith and what you can and cannot say. But I just knew that my guys knew that was something that's extremely important to me. At Houston Christian, obviously, it's a much easier thing to discuss. And we have had some great talks with guys as a group and also individually with players. And so that's kind of how I am where I am now, having coached 12 years in public school and now 13 years at Houston Christian. I've seen a lot of different things from both sides. And I'm really thankful to God that I've had a lot of different experiences and a lot of impact. A lot of these kids have had impact on me. It's just not just me impacting kids or trying to preach the gospel to kids. It's about impacting them in a way. And ironically, what I find is that I'm oftentimes impacted by them.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about your coaching career. This is your second stint at Houston Christian. So you were there and you left and you came back. Walk us through kind of where you've been.
In 1995, I started at Katy ISD. I thought I was going to get a job at Cy-Fair ISD. I grew up there. I played ball there. All these coaches knew me. Coach Drought tried to get me to be an assistant at Cy Falls, and things just didn't work out from a teaching field perspective. And I made a phone call to a buddy of mine that I played high school ball with, Ryan Connery. His dad is Rob Connery, who was a longtime official. He was a college official. And at the time, he was the president of the Houston chapter of Tasso. And then there was no UIL or Tasso split. They were all one huge affiliation. He was the president. And I said, hey, Mr. Connery, I'm looking for a position. I want to get into teaching and coaching. Can you help me out? All these doors in Cy-Fair have been closed. He said, Ron, let me make a call to Jack Rose out in Katy ISD and see what I could do. I mean, literally the next day I got an interview. And, I want to be a high school coach at the time. I wanted to be a college coach before that, really. I said, I'll just use this as a stepping stone so I can become a college coach. And, but I got an interview and I was sent to a middle school, West Memorial Junior High. Interviewed there. Yeah, right. And interviewed there, interviewed at the administration building, and literally I got a job that day after just one simple phone call. So I started in West Memorial Junior High in 1995, moved to Beck Junior High in Katy, which is a Cinco Ranch feeder now. The very next year, because Cinco Ranch was just starting to blow up as a community, and they were building schools and homes like crazy at the time. And so I was moved over there as an excess, really. As an excess employee, we had too many people at West Memorial. So I moved over there. I coached there and taught there for 4 years and then moved to Taylor High School in year 2000. I was Lee Tynes' assistant and was there for just a year as his assistant. And then he tells me the day after our playoff game, we lose to Hightower. Greg Wise is coach at Hightower at the time.
Wow.
And ironically, Greg and I go way back because we used to work basketball camps together. I knew Nick and DeAndre when they were little kids. Lee Tynes tells me the very next day after playoffs, hey, Ron, I'm retiring. I'm done. And I thought he was going to retire like 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years later. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to step into that position. I was 29 years old at the time. Man, there's no way they're going to hire me to be. I'm a middle school coach. I'm 1 year assistant, And he said, but I'm going to hold off on making my announcement so that it gives you a better chance of getting the job. So I thought a lot of people don't know that story. So he did. He held out for a long period of time, and I was able to get the job. I was there at Taylor for 4 years as the head coach, 5 years total. Left, kind of a long story. But then Houston Christian called me, and I knew the AD, Mickey Riggs, because I'd worked with him at Katy ISD, and he knew my tenure at Taylor and how successful we were there. And he says, I really want you to think about it. And I knew the head coach there at Houston Christian. I don't know. I mean, private school. I mean, come on. How good is private school basketball? I mean, that was my thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unfortunately, some coaches still today have that thought, but I think most of that has been dispelled. And so I was working in a mortgage company, and I really thought that, you know, God, why did you get me into coaching? Then I'm out of coaching. Why is that? You know, I'm really struggling and wrestle with that. So it was a great way for me to get back into coaching. And I was there for a year. We had a great year and went far in the playoffs. But I really felt like that I needed to get back into teaching full time. That's really what I needed to be doing. I was searching for different things at the time. And Craig Brownson, the head coach at Travis, called me and said, hey, I have a position. Would you be interested in being my varsity assistant? And I said, you know, I would. And he knew that I was a Houston Christian as a head coach, but I was looking full time. And you know, Craig came along at a really pivotal time in my life that I really needed that. And he stuck his neck out for me. And so I was there for a year with him as his varsity assistant, coaching freshman basketball,
Okay.
coaching baseball.
Wow.
Which, I mean, yeah, me on a baseball field. I mean, okay, where do I put these? How do I wear these socks? I mean, okay, how do I wear my belt? I mean, I felt like a fish out of water coaching baseball, but I'm out there coaching baseball. We're in practice, and you know, one of the early days of your flip phone cell phones, my phone rings, and Mickey Riggs calls me from Houston Christian. He said, hey, we have created a full-time position for you. We want you to come back and be full-time.
Was that standard, I say back in the day, for private schools not being able to offer a full-time position with, you know, and being a teacher at the same time? Is that why it was part-time? Was that standard back then?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't characterize it as standard, but I think depending on what school, where you work, you know, many schools are K through 12. Houston Christian is a 9 through 12 school. So, and some schools are pre-K through 12. So you have so many different opportunities to hire coaches within different teaching fields that you can fill them a little bit more easily. With a 9 through 12 school, there's only so many teaching positions and then staff positions. So, you know, there's different philosophies. I can only tell you that my experience to Houston Christian was that they had a lot of part-time coaches. There wasn't a lot of full-time.
Okay.
We have made strides in that area since I've been there. Yes.
So you're at Travis and you get the call from Mickey.
Yeah.
You're going to create a full-time job, and he recruited you back.
Right. That's basically what happened. And my wife and I talked about it, prayed about it. And I felt like, you know, this is such a unique opportunity. Let's try to make this like the Duke of private school basketball in Texas.
And this was 2008?
2000 spring of 2008, whenever he made that call.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
sure was.
Okay.
Yep. So I coached there in 06, 07, left, was at Travis 07, 08 school year, and then went back to HC the fall of 2008. So the spring of 2008, I met with Mickey, met with Dr. Livingston, the headmaster, and so yeah, I've been there ever since.
Well, that's
different
great.
roles within the school.
Yeah, you bet. So I know you hit kind of a milestone this year with your 400th coaching win. Is that only in the private school sector, or did that also include your time at Taylor as well?
It was all. I've coached 17 years total as a varsity coach, and 4 of those were at Taylor, and then 13 at Houston Christian. Yeah, it's like hell all of them. Most of my wins have been at Houston Christian. I think it's like, I don't know, 300 and I don't know. It's something like 310. I think I had 88 wins at Taylor, something like that, in 4 years.
So I know the last 3, that's fantastic, by the way. I mean, the last 3 years, 2 out of the last 3, Houston Christian has won an SBC state championship. So congratulations there. I know you came up a little short this year. What other titles do y'all have outside of the last 3 years?
We have a couple district championships when we were in TAPS.
Okay.
Went to the Final Four in TAPS one time, actually my first year full time at the school. We went to the Final Four. Right now, I'm one of the board members on the large private school board member on TABC, Texas Association of Basketball Coaches. I mean, I don't like to get into the whole titles thing. That doesn't really, it's kind of weird for me to talk about it, but we've had some, really cool success at the school, and it's been a journey. It's been a unique journey from start until now.
A lot of fans or just parents in general who have kids who go to a public school don't always know the difference between SPC and TAPS. And Houston Christian was TAPS before it became SPC. What do you think is the main difference between the two? What makes one, SPC unique?
I think more than anything else is the accreditation process that the schools go through. It's an ISAS is the accreditation that we have, and all the schools in SPC have. Not all the TAP schools have that. I'm not saying one's better than the other. That's
right.
just their different affiliations, and a lot of people don't know that private schools have to be accredited by a certain organization. Just like whatever the organization is in public school, TEA. And you see charter schools kind of fall by the wayside because they don't meet the academic standards that TEA in the state of Texas mandates. For us, we have an association that we have to answer to, and that's ISAS. So that's what really the main difference is. I think some would characterize it as maybe a little bit more stringent process. So that's why you see schools like Kincaid and St. John's and Episcopal, John Cooper. Those are all schools here in the Houston area. And then you have, St. Mark's and Episcopal School of Dallas and Cistercian, all these different schools in Fort Worth, Dallas, that what I would consider, high-end academic standards. I think for the most part, private schools have high expectations. So I certainly don't want to minimize any other school. I can only speak to,
right.
what our schools and schools like us go through for. In fact, we're getting ready to go through our accreditation process this coming fall. To re-up with ISAS, yeah.
And technically SPC plays outside of the state of Texas. I call it a state championship, but it's really an SPC championship because Cassidy in Oklahoma?
Yeah, Holland Hall used to be in SPC, but they decided to go to their state association because in Oklahoma, privates and public could play together for a championship. Okay. Privates just have to play up. So if their enrollment is a certain level, then they have to play up one classification. Now, Holland Hall decided to make that call a few years back. But at Cassidy, Cassidy's still the only school in Oklahoma that's in our conference.
What's your take on, let's bring it back here to the Houston or even the Texas area, private schools playing public schools, and we'll just focus on basketball, okay? There seems to be resistance more so with public schools allowing their teams to play private schools. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's unfortunate because I think there's so much that we can challenge one another. I think for some reason, I think there may have been a few private schools that have given a lot of schools, you lump them all in the same group and give them a negative connotation that all we do is just fork over money to kids to come to our school and they get to go for free. And that's not the case. That's not the case at all. In fact, our first, SPC championship team I had 2 of my 15 kids were on some kind of financial assistance, if you will. Everybody else is full pay. We're talking $24,000 a year, so when you look at the pool of candidates that can check that box in the city of Houston, where you're looking for high level basketball players, kids that have a desire and thirst for academic, success and want to be challenged academically, and the ones that can afford to pay it, becomes a pretty small pool.
Right.
The only thing that we do in our conference is it's need-based. It's all need-based, and you have to provide tax returns and W-2s and all that information, and it goes through a pretty stringent process as to what it's an outside source that actually provides the number as to what they think parents can pay according to their their intake, their revenue, their expenses. There's a lot of different things that are involved. Maybe you have 2 children in college, or but it doesn't take into account, I like to say this amount of money for my trip to Cabo every year. Sorry, that doesn't count. That needs to go towards your school. That's something that you really want to go
right.
do. And so I think there's that misnomer of that's what we do. and nothing could be further from the truth. And that's, I feel that's what makes me feel good about what we've done at our school is that, people are going to say whatever they want to say. Let's be real. I can't control what people say. I just know that what we do and how we go about doing things, and the kids. Now, we made some mistakes with some kids that we've recruited, or I would say recruited, kids that we've made some mistakes with kids that we were, really trying to get to come to our school, and they weren't really a great academic fit.
Right, because like you said, you got to check all three of those boxes, and that's not easy.
Really do
for most families.
Right.
Talk about some of those teams that you've had here recently. The one that comes to mind for me, and the one that I'm most familiar with, would have been 2018 class with Miller Kopp and Jalen Clark, and of course Xavier Wheeler would have been 2019. But just a very, very talented team, and all three of those players that I just mentioned went on to play D1, right? So how would you kind of compare that team with the 19 and 20 teams that competed for SPC championships?
Well, they're completely different types of teams. And that's what was so neat to be able to coach that team, as well as last year's and this most recent year's team. That year you were talking about, 2018, had such a we had every piece. We had a center and Blake Foley that can run like a deer up and down the floor. He was, I've talked to a lot of coaches after that, and I said, that kid worried me. I said, well, he should worry you because he's long, he's athletic, he can run the floor, he can make a jump shot, he could challenge you at the rim, he could rebound. And I
kind of forgot about him until you just said something.
A lot of people did, everybody.
And he was kind of the wild factor. Yeah.
Yeah. Miller and Xavier and Jalen, and you look at those guys, and obviously those three were, unbelievable players. And but you forget about kids like Blake Foley, Aiden Torres, who's playing at Our Lady of the Lake University in San Antonio, a kid that came off the bench that was, before you knew it, he was going to make 3 or 4 threes on you. Then you figure out, I got to guard that kid.
Right.
And so that was such a team that just had all the different pieces, and they appreciated each other for their value that they brought to the team. And that's what was so cool. When those guys were sophomores and Xavier was a freshman, they were young on a really good, talented team. And a lot of people, including myself, we thought we had the makings to have a run of just owning the SBC, really, quite frankly.
Right.
And, their teams just gel, or they don't gel as well as they can. And after that year, when they were younger guys, said, Coach, what can we do to help us go where we want to go? I said, we've got to stop focusing on championships and just focusing on each other and pursue excellence. And so we had a little bit of a paradigm shift in how we were going to attack our daily process of excellence. And those guys embraced it, and they were able to be the spokesman for what we wanted to do. And they became the guys. Well, they always were, but they made it obvious. This is what it requires. We got to get in the gym. We can't do what other schools do with during their athletic period. We don't have an athletic period, so we got to get up here in the mornings together. We got to have open gym in the mornings. We got to do stuff in the evenings together. Where can we do it? We can do it here at the school. Our school is really cool about just access. They leave things open. The kids go in there and play, and we're in there for open gym after school, but they still want to stay and shoot on the gun or do ball handling drills together. And okay, cool. So they just pursued excellence in a different way that I think it created a standard that other guys needed to follow.
Talk about your assistant coach, Teddy Wheeler, which is obviously Xavier's dad, and what he's done how has he impacted, your community and your team. And a lot of people know him for the contributions he's made in the grassroots basketball space. Heck of a trainer, but what has he meant to you to have on your staff?
Right. That's hard to put into words. Really words can't describe, what he's been able to do. I'm glad you asked that question, Derek, because he is a one of a kind. I've got great assistant coaches. Teddy, like you said, Michael Morris, who played at Cinco Ranch and he played at Colorado State. He's been with me 10 years. Ryan Lease is a kid that he graduated a couple years ago from Hardin Simmons, played college ball there. He played for me at Houston Christian. Graduated in 2013. So you asked about Teddy. He several years ago, it was actually that 2012-2013 year where he asked, I'd like to be a volunteer coach. Do you have a spot? First, do you have a spot? I said, no, I don't have any stipends. We have part-time coaches that have already taken up those spots. I just do it as a volunteer basis. I just want to get involved with the high school. I've watched you coach. I've watched your teams. You get a lot out of what little talent you have. And I thought that was, pretty cool that he would see that in us and our program. And the minute he joined in, I immediately, gosh, this guy's he's got so much knowledge that I need to tap into. And I think we as a team can challenge each other. Talking about myself and Teddy, we can challenge each other to be the best we can be so that we can bring about the best on our team. And I think you got to have coaches that are like that, and too many high school coaches that I know, that I observe, and the assistant coaches really have no say during games, during practices, player development, workout. I mean, you name it. It's all driven by the head coach. And to me, that's just not the way I wanted to go about doing things. I want to have a team around me. I want to have guys I can trust. And I had a couple assistant coaches at Taylor that I had lost faith and trust, and kind of trust in the whole deal. And because of Teddy and Michael Morris, those guys have brought about a change in me and how much I love and trust those guys. So, I mean, we're now to the point where literally Teddy installs the offense and I install the defense.
There you go.
And yeah, and during games he calls all the offense, and I don't care it's so liberating in a way, because during the offensive play I can watch and observe something and give him some information, but I'm also thinking about other parts of the game, maybe substituting patterns, maybe something I got to talk to an official. I mean, okay, what kind of adjustments do we need to make on the defensive end? Okay, I didn't like the way we hedged that ball screen, or maybe we need to drop, just different things that I can think about during the game. But it's ironic. I'm always giving him feedback on offense, and he's always giving me feedback on defense. And together, we're able to put that together and make in-game adjustments so much easier than I think a lot of coaches and staffs do currently in the city. And I think he over time, he has shown me his love and loyalty for me as a coach, for man. I think we as men need that, and we can't be ashamed to say that we need that. He's more than just a basketball coach. He's one of my best friends, and our team sees that chemistry in us, and they know that, man, when Crandall and Wheeler are together on something, we've got to be behind that, and there's oftentimes where we argue behind the scenes about stuff, right? It might be scout report. It might be this particular action that we need to install. And no, I don't like that. I mean, he always gives me, the veto power, but he'll make his case. And, in his unique way, he's pretty persuasive, but there's oftentimes where I go, just hold on, just stop, shut up. Let's just do it like this. He said, Coach, I'm cool.
Right.
So it's such a unique relationship. I mean, my wife calls him, that's like your second husband, or your husband over there, your coach husband. I'm like, no, let's not get too carried away. He's awesome, and he's influenced a lot of our kids. He's trained a lot of those guys, and some of those guys, wouldn't be at our school if it wasn't for him, quite honestly.
Well, I echo everything you just said about him. He's a great guy, and you're right. He is a basketball genius. He just knows so much about the game. Talk a little bit about, I'm going to shift a little bit about some of the recruiting challenges that these young athletes have today, especially during a time of a pandemic, and where there are no live periods for college coaches to come watch these huge events in the spring and summer. Maybe we'll get lucky and still have some summer events. I'm not crossing my fingers. I don't know about you, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. In fact, you have a son that's kind of in that bucket, right? They're a senior. They can play the game. How do you get the film? How do you market these kids that really needed that spring, summer the unsigned senior group to be viewed and seen.
Yeah, I just think you just got to continue to talk to coaches. I know Teddy continues to get calls or texts. I do as well. Just talking to these coaches about our players, sending them information, giving them the stats, giving them the film. I've put a challenge to some of the players, make a highlight film of some of your best plays, some of your intangible plays. I've even done that with my own son. I want to empower those guys and him to take ownership of the whole process yourself. You know, a lot of college coaches, that's all they can go by is film and your word as a coach. There's the relationships that we have that they've learned to just trust our opinion and our word. And that's what a lot of times players don't understand is whenever you play for a coach, you gotta do everything you can so that your coach will always speak positively about you because they're investing in that kid at the next level. I mean, you got some of these guys, I mean, some of these coaches are making millions and millions of dollars and they want to entrust their salary into that kid that's going to help him keep that job, you know, and not every level of basketball is like that. Obviously D3 or NAIA and some of your D2s, most of your D1s are not to that level, but you got to continue to challenge your guys. I've been talking to our guys, actually after lunch, I'm talking to two more where we haven't had a chance to have our exit meetings with our kids. You know, because we were going to do that after spring break. We give them some ideas of what we're going to talk about, and then we meet with them throughout the weeks after spring break and how they can go into the spring, get ready for AAU ball and summer and all that. We've been talking to them on things like this, you know, just what are you working on? What are you doing on your game right now? So there's so many different things that we could be doing, but the availability is not there right now. So we just have to go about things a different way, continue with our relationships with coaches mainly, and continue to promote our kids in a way that highlights some of the things that they can bring to the table at the next level.
One question I love to ask high school basketball coaches is about the 30-second shot clock.
Okay.
And obviously Texas does not have one, or even your conference does not have one. What's your take on a shot clock for high school basketball? Obviously there's some states around the country that have it, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge proponent for it. Now I will say this, and people have actually brought it to my attention, and I thought about it, but you know, we've been a beneficiary of no shot clock in a way. Now I think people would if you ask them how does Houston Christian play, I mean, what do you think they're going to say? They play fast, they play with a lot of pace. We call our action pace read. Basically, we're trying to play so fast that you're uncomfortable, so that you play at our pace, and eventually, yeah, you may make some shots, but can you keep that up for 32 minutes? So I think from a standpoint of, you know, we would adjust fine to a shot clock because we already play that way in the first place. But we've also been a beneficiary. If we're up 8 and it's 4 minutes left, we're spreading you out with our guards and see if you can chase us around. You know, obviously when we had Xavier, we're like, okay, good luck. I mean, how are you going to keep him out of the paint and keep him from driving? And that won us some games, you know, because we're able to just all of a sudden we play so fast and all of a sudden we pump the brakes and spread you. And now it becomes, you know, how can you handle that? So I say all that to say, even though we've been a beneficiary, I just think it's better for the game. I think it's better for all of basketball to be the same across the board. I think it's dumb that college basketball has 2 halves. Why doesn't it have 4 quarters?
I agree.
I think there needs to be consistency from the high school varsity level all the way to the NBA. I think it makes for a better coach game. I think coaches you gotta do a lot more to prepare your team for something like a shot clock. Okay, you may have an action, you may play. I think coaches, they play this continuity offense where they run something for 1 minute. I just don't think it's good for the game. I think the way the game is now, I don't think that's I don't want to say it's the right way to play. It's not the way I would want to play, nor would that's something that kids want to play in.
Correct.
You know?
Right.
I think you got to have something that keeps them engaged. They want to play, they want to go, and they see the way we play that really interests them. But I think for the betterment of just development of a IQ of a player, I don't see why not. I mean, every other sport has something to a shot clock. In volleyball, you got to serve it within a certain amount of seconds. I mean, why do we have a 5-second count to get the ball in bounds?
Right.
Why is there a 10-second count to get it across half court?
Which that would just go away with a shot clock. Well, or would it?
Would, but why have time type rules within the game if we're not going to have a shot clock in the game?
Correct.
Whenever NFL went to the 40-second running clock, college went to something similar, and then high schools have gone to that.
Right.
We've got lacrosse that has a shot clock on it. Every sport, soccer is a totally different anomaly, but why not have something like that? I think would help streamline the game all the way across the board. I think the only downside to it is who's going to run a shot clock. Are you going to pay that person? But if we can pay for seven officials on the football field and three guys on the chain gang and three guys up in the booth for a football game, surely we can pay for one extra official to run a shot clock.
Well, I'm with you, and it's Texas, right? We'll find a way to get that money. It's what we do in this state. We love our sports. All right, I got one final question for you. You've been great, by the way. What do people not know about Coach Ron Crandall? Tell us something that they just don't know about you, as a person, and maybe what you value in everyday life.
Well, I think that at the outset of this interview, I talked about my faith. I think maybe people don't know how important that part is of my life to me. Like in the midst of this pandemic, people are crazy, they're freaking out. And to me, man, on the other side of this, heaven is going to be way better than anything in this life, the way I look at it. And I'm going to do everything I can to glorify God and the things that I do every day. But I can't wait to get to heaven to see my dad. My dad passed away about 7 years ago. And I just know how much better that's going to be than life on this earth. A lot of people don't understand that. They can't wrap their head around that. But, if you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and you put your faith in him, you understand that there's more to this life than what we go through every single day. I think that helped change my thinking and coaching basketball and stop pursuing championships and just pursue relationships and just pursue excellence in every part of my life. It's funny, when I stopped pursuing championships, we started winning them. It was quite ironic that that's the way, that went. But I think a funny thing, I love music. I love to watch my daughter dance. My other daughter's a cheerleader, and a lot of people don't know that I sang a lot back in the day. Whenever I was at Baylor, I got invited to sing with a quartet of guys at various events around the city and for the president of the university. And so a lot of people don't know that there's a little bit of musical background. And people would probably be surprised. Now, I probably wouldn't. I may not sound very good. I sound really good in the shower, but I don't know that I'd sound very good in public right now.
Well, that's one more thing you and I have in common. I was actually part of the K-State Men's Glee Club. So,
oh wow, nice.
We could chat. Yeah, I'm not much of a soloist, but if you need a good baritone or a bass,
there you go.
In the very background, yeah, I can carry a tune. But amen to you, brother. Great learning more about you and your background, and just hats off to you with all of your accomplishments in life and what you're doing at Houston Christian. And all the best to you, your family, and your teams.
Yeah, thanks so much, Derek. Thanks for the opportunity to come on and just hang out and just talk basketball, but just more than that. I think this is great. I think you start connecting with different coaches. You'll see different things from so many different guys and gals. I think it's kind of cool to pull back the layers of people and see maybe more so than just what you see on the surface or what you see on social media. And sometimes people get the wrong perception of you, and we can't control that perception. But maybe through something like this, people might be able to see different sides of coaches that they didn't think about beforehand. So it's cool. Keep up the good work. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Enjoy your day.